Remember, you are ultimately responsible for protecting yourself and for providing for yourself. Live your life with honor and integrity, and always be the wolf hunter. Don't be the sheep, and never be the wolf. Folks, in this video, I'm going to give you some good statistics about how cops actually feel about citizens owning guns, and these stats will probably really surprise you. If you watch the news enough, then you've probably seen some type of a left-leaning news source saying that most police chiefs support stricter gun control. And what they're trying to make you think is that if the police, being the ones who go against criminals on an everyday basis, if they think that we need stricter gun laws, then it must make sense. But what they don't tell you is that many of these police chiefs are appointed by a liberal mayor in a liberal big city, and that the police chief has to say something like that in order to keep that liberal mayor from firing him. And of course, if that police chief is from a big liberal city, then he very well might be anti-gun himself. But I'm here to tell you, as a police officer myself, that I know that the reality is that the vast majority of police officers are pro-Second Amendment and are pro-good guys with guns. Police One, which is a website for police officers across this nation, they did a survey back in 2013 where they asked cops across this country about their thoughts on gun control. And more than 15,000 verified police officers took part in the survey. And 70% of those cops were street cops and not high-ranking cops who have to say whatever their mayor wants to hear. Now, I'll put a link to the results of the survey down in the description box. But if you're pro-Second Amendment yourself, you'll probably be very pleasantly surprised by the results I'm going to show here. First, 95% of the cops said that outlawing high-capacity magazines would not reduce violent crime. Also, 71% of the cops said that banning certain semi-automatic weapons, aka the so-called assault weapons, would not reduce violent crime. And even 20% said that banning them would actually make crime worse. 85% said that any new gun laws that Obama was pursuing at that time wouldn't keep them safer. And here's a big one, 70% of the cops said that they like it when they hear their chiefs or sheriffs say that they would refuse to enforce stricter gun laws, and 61% said that they would do the same if they were a chief or a sheriff themselves. 28% said that it should be easier for civilians to conceal carry. Now remember, this isn't if citizens should carry or not, but 28% believe it should be easier than it already is for citizens to conceal carry. And here's another big one. 90% of cops believe that armed citizens would save lives in active shooter incidents, meaning a good guy with a gun would stop the active shooter quicker. 80% of the cops said that they supported the arming of teachers and administrators at schools, especially if those people took training. And 81% of the cops said that gun buyback programs are ineffective. Folks, I think it's important to remember that this survey was taken by cops across the country. And if I remember right, when I first joined Police One, they contacted my police department to confirm that I was a police officer. And I was one of those police officers that participated in that survey. And I know that they did not pick and choose who took part in that survey in an attempt to skew their numbers. They reached out to all of their members. So I know that this is a good survey that conveys the typical cop's feelings across this nation on gun control. What this survey shows is that police officers overwhelmingly like good people being armed, and that police would like to see more good people carrying guns to protect themselves, and they don't want to see any more gun laws being placed on the books. What this also tells me is that if SHTF does happen, that the more conservative and the more pro-gun the area is that you live in, then the less likely the cops will be going around and confiscating guns from good people like they did in New Orleans after Katrina. So I would be extremely wary if I lived in a liberal area where the people consistently vote in liberal politicians who appoint liberal police chiefs. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying every cop in a liberal city is going to be a gun-grabbing anti-constitutionalist. I know a lot of big city cops who are just as pro-Second Amendment and pro-constitutional as I am. I'm just saying that cops in liberal cities have to answer to their liberal police chiefs and liberal mayors who may give the command to violate the Constitution. And while we don't know the true number of cops who would actually follow illegal orders, the events in New Orleans after Katrina show that at least some of the cops under the liberals' control were willing to do that. Now, one caveat about the survey. I believe that the majority of the cops that took the survey were local police officers that you would see driving up and down your streets, and not federal cops like the BATF. And I have no idea on how the typical federal cop views guns because I rarely have interaction with the feds. So the moral of this video is, if I lived in a smaller conservative area, which is actually most of the United States once you get out of the major cities, I wouldn't be so afraid of the cops being anti-gun or being anti-self-protection or wanting to come for your guns. However, if I lived in a larger city ran by liberal politicians, or if the feds were involved, I'd be leery if they were actually going to protect your Second Amendment rights or not. During my second year of nursing school, our professor gave us a quiz. I breezed through the questions until I read the last one. The last question being, what is the first name of the woman who cleans the school? Surely this was a joke. I had seen the cleaning woman several times, but how would I know her name? I handed in my paper, leaving the last question blank. Before the class ended, one student asked if the last question would count towards our grade. Absolutely, the professor said. In your careers, you will meet many people, and all are significant. They deserve your attention and care, even if all you do is smile and say hello. I've never forgotten that lesson, and I also learned that her name was Dorothy. Folks, if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up and comment below with your thoughts. And please share this video, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to this channel, as I'll be doing many more videos down the road as time permits. Anyways, folks, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.